He Gets Us commercial did 3 things well and 1 thing horribly.
Spirit Life!
Hey, it's Bruce on Spirit Life, and I do Christian commentary. I want to give just a different perspective. It's not what you think that I had a problem with, but I actually think there were 3 great things about the commercial. And the first of which is that they had a commercial. The people behind the commercial had a good idea. I don't think it was a waste of money to get a gospel presentation out there. Now we can discuss how effective that gospel presentation might have been, but the idea of spending even millions of dollars to put Jesus out there in the minds and the hearts of people at the forefront of the biggest TV event of the year, that's money well spent. That's a good investment. I collect funds to do mission work where the primary focus is the gospel, getting the message of Jesus into the hearts of the people so they can have faith in Him, build a relationship with Jesus, fulfill their destiny in life, their very purpose. Do I minister to the poor in the process? Of course. We feed people, we meet their physical needs. But if you don't meet the spiritual needs of the people, it is a moot point to talk about the physical needs. And a lot of the people complaining, I'll just give you a hint, they're saying you could have used the money on the poor. They're not going to spend money on the poor anyway. It's not like they would have taken that $7 million and spent it all on the poor. If you remember, Judas was one of the people who was saying about the woman who broke the alabaster jar and wasted the expensive perfume on Jesus. Oh, that money could have been used for the poor. He didn't really care about that. So I'm not saying everybody who has a concern with a waste of money is Judas. I'm just saying there's a lot of people who are claiming that that's a concern when it really shouldn't be. If people have the money to do it, that's how much a commercial cost these days for the Super Bowl. Now we could go into the whole other topic of the Super Bowl's too expensive, is blown out of proportion, it's just a game. Why are so many people putting so much emphasis on a game? We could go there if you want to talk about that. I'm all for that discussion on a different video. But for now, I would say the number 1 good thing about the commercial is that there was a commercial. Why not spend money and invest money towards telling people something about the Lord? The second thing that the commercial did really well is they showed potentially marginalized people. Now, we'll discuss in a moment how marginalized they may or may not have been. But for example, here in America, it's been a traditionally Judeo-Christian background in our nation since its inception. And so they showed a Muslim who was receiving the washing of the feet. They showed an LGBT person who was receiving the ministry of the washing of the feet. They showed others who maybe sometimes in our society there could have been a perception that these 2 groups don't get along or there's animosity between these 2 groups. I think it's great to show that Jesus does not judge people as if just because you belong to a certain group, especially a group that American churches might not have affiliated with in the past, does not mean that you're excluded from the gospel. In fact, but for the grace of God, I am at the top of the list of sinners. I'm not just saying that because I'm supposed to say it, it's the Christian line. I am really sinful in my flesh. I mean, I have so many problems. I have a bad history of sin. I need God's grace. You know, I would not be the kind of person to judge someone else like, oh, their sin is worse than mine, as if that's something I can do. And that's not what Christians are supposed to do. We're not supposed to wag fingers at others and have a holier than thou kind of mentality. Jesus said, make sure to get the plank out of your own eye before you judge the speck in someone else's eye. And helping someone with their speck could be good if you don't have anything going on with your own eyes, but most of us have problems. Most of us have sin, and we shouldn't wag a finger and look down judgmentally. And the message that Jesus sees people and loves people from all the different backgrounds, that's a good message. Now, the third thing that I think was really, really well done was when the end of the commercial said, He gets us. Jesus does get us. He was a human being. Now listen, Jesus is God. He's God in human form. It's a weird concept to consider, but He's fully God. Everything that makes God God, He is that. Perfect love. And the transcendent nature of the eternal God, uncreated, that is Jesus, but totally and fulfilling the complete experience of a human being at the same time. It's a wild concept. But Jesus was actually human. He felt what it feels to be a person, to be a man, to live in this broken world, to live in this sinful reality, to face temptations, to face struggles, disappointments, discouragements. Jesus gets what it's like to be a person with struggles, to be a person with confusion or doubts or pain or loneliness, sadness. It says in the Bible that Jesus was sad, He was afflicted. It says He was lonely. Jesus gets us because He's been there, He's done that. He never sinned. He never crossed the line into selfishness. He never looked to someone else to say, what can I get out of that person? He only ever looked at another person to say, how can I serve? How can I help? And Jesus was completely loving in every aspect. But that brings me to the one thing that the commercial did horribly, which is the statement they said right before they said Jesus gets us. They said Jesus did not teach hate. I'm not objecting because Jesus did teach hate. No. Of course He never taught hate. But the assumption when we say that phrase is that Jesus' teachings might be misconstrued as hate. And I think it was a real misstep to play into that stereotype. This generation has a severe problem. They think that if you disagree with a person that you hate them. We have somehow in my generation come to this conclusion that in order to love someone, you have to accept everything about them, every idea they might have, as crazy as they might be. Now, theologically, that doesn't make sense, but let me just give a real world example. Going back to the Super Bowl, can't you be friends with someone who wants the other team to win than yourself? Can't you be friends with someone who has a fantasy league and they have a team and they say, hey, here's who I think might win? And you say, no, I disagree. I think here's what my idea is. Have you thought about this angle? Have you ever been in a business meeting and you said, I love this guy. We're friends. We have a good connection, good friendship, but I disagree with the strategy. I think we should take this route. He says, I think we should take that route. All throughout life, we disagree with certain things. Let's take it a little deeper. I'm a parent. My kids, I could die for them. I love them so much. I have genuine affection for them. But there's some really bad ideas they have. If my son thinks I'm going to jump off the roof and try to fly with a parachute made out of a pillowcase or something, I'm going to object to that idea. It's a harmful idea. It's not good. And it doesn't mean I don't love him just because I don't accept that idea. Likewise, God has certain ideas for what He thinks is best. And if you really want to think about it, He probably does know what's best, right? He's God. He's got infinite wisdom. He created the universe. He knows how everything works. He governs every particle. He created the laws of physics. God knows how the human heart is supposed to operate, what our destiny is, our purpose for existing. So He gets to set the standard. If He says in Matthew 19 that LGBTQ is prohibited, that's His standard. That's His rule. He's not hateful. And the Christians who say that that's prohibited because they're simply repeating what Jesus told us, they're not hateful either. So for the commercial to say Jesus never taught hate implies that there are certain Christians out there who, because of their biblical ideology, that's hateful. Now listen, maybe the commercial was aimed at non-believers to let them know, hey, Jesus is not hateful. You can still come to Him. We're not rejecting you. Maybe that was their intent, but they accidentally gave the impression that any Christian who holds a standard, a Christian, for example, who says Islam is a false religion, which it is, if they say, the Qur'an is not inspired by the Lord, which it's not, if they claim that Allah is a false version of the one true God, which He is, then that person is suddenly hateful. No, I can love Muslim people, which I do, and still disagree with their worldview because it's wrong. It is wrong. It's actually false. We can go into all of that, and I'm sure I'll get all the hate because of that one. Just come at me. Come at me, bro. I know I'm going to get it in the comments. But here's the thing. You can love Muslim people, and because you love them, you tell them, hey, I think there's a flaw in the Quran. I think that Jesus claiming that He's God in the flesh prohibits you from being a Muslim. It actually invites you to be a Christian. And there's reasons that the Quran itself would actually support that. That's a conversation you can have, and it's because you love them, not because you're trying to avoid the one hateful thing in your heart. No, it's actually the most loving thing. If you love someone and you want to get them right with God and you care about them, it's the most loving thing to tell them the truth. So if I tell an LGBT friend that Jesus prohibits that, that's just His rules, He doesn't hate them, he doesn't reject them, but he does reject the sin. He rejects that lifestyle. As a person, he wants them, he receives them, but that lifestyle he rejects. If I say that, that's not unloving, that's not hate. The commercial implied that there's some sort of hate going on if you object to the lifestyle of the people that were portrayed in the commercial. That was a huge misstep. It plays right into the false stereotype that non-believers have about the church. It plays right into the wokeism that the conservative church has been pushing back against, sometimes in a way that's a little bit maybe unfruitful. Sometimes there are haters out there. Sometimes there really are true, actual bigots who call themselves Christians. They actually are hateful. They're shouting obscenities or protesting and holding up signs and whatever. And that's not Jesus. They don't represent Jesus. For the commercial to even imply that those kind of people are out there insinuates that they represent Christianity when they don't. And so I think that was a huge misstep. What do you think? Was this commercial the best thing you've ever seen? And you thought, this is a great message, it's a great conversation starter, it's a good use of the funds? Or did you think, what a waste of funds? Did you think, what a bad commercial? They're implying that you don't have to be born again or you don't have to change or repent. I kind of tend to think that accidentally the commercial, though well-intentioned, might have fallen into that category. Remember, Jesus said to the woman who was caught in adultery, he didn't say, hey, adultery is not a sin. Hey, don't judge her because it's not a sin. He said it is a sin. Go and sin no more. But I forgive you. That's a huge difference. That is the gospel. If we think our sin doesn't matter, if we think our sin is not a big deal, God can just kind of sweep it under the rug, then why would Jesus have to shed his perfect blood? Why would he have to live 33 years of a perfect life, never sinning once, only for us to be like, whatever, it's not a big deal. Sin's not that big a deal. No, it's a big deal. Sin is horrible. God is holy, absolutely holy. For us to be right with him requires the blood sacrifice of Jesus, as crazy as that might sound. And there's other videos on my channel that talk about why that's the necessary thing, why the gospel is what it is. But just suffice it to say that many people were upset that the commercial didn't emphasize repent. Did you fall into that category yourself? You thought the commercial really had a misstep with that part of the message. Did you think that the commercial was great? I want to hear in the comments below. As always, great discussion most of the time. I've got a few haters. I got a troll out there too, but it's all right. I'm here to love you guys, to help you walk a more spiritual life. If that sounds appealing, if that sounds helpful, hit the subscribe button. Share this video too. I think fostering discussion can actually be one of the more positive things that the commercial did. Even if it had a misstep, if it causes people to discuss the truth, and if it causes non-believers to start talking about Jesus, maybe that's the whole purpose. Maybe that's what the Lord would have to come out of this commercial. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. This is Bruce on Spirit Life.
Won't you come, won't you come?